Welcome to our slash relationship underscore advice, where people's exes can't seem to let go of the past and keep creeping back into their lives. The first story comes from a man whose ex-wife suddenly decided she wants to return years after leaving him and their children. About 3 years ago, this guy noticed red flags in his marriage and eventually caught his wife sexting another man. She confessed that their life together wasn't what she wanted, so the two of them divorced. She left him and the kids behind to be with this other man. At the time, their 3 children were devastated and felt completely abandoned by their mother. He was awarded the house and sole custody, and while she technically could have visited, the kids made it very clear they wanted nothing to do with her. Over time, he's done his best to keep things stable, and the kids are slowly healing, though he can still see that they miss her, especially his younger son, one of the twins. He hasn't been celibate during this time, having had casual flings here and there, but he decided not to pursue any serious relationship until his kids are grown and out of high school. Then, out of nowhere, his ex-wife showed back up. The man she left him for has turned into a broke alcoholic, and she walked away from that relationship. She moved back in with her parents, and recently, when the kids were away visiting their uncle's cottage, she came over. She pleaded with him to take her back, saying she regrets everything, that she ruined her life, burned through her money, lost her children, and now wants to rebuild what she destroyed. She told him she's willing to work hard to repair the relationship and co-parent again. He listened, but kept quiet, and after spilling her heart out, she left. Now he's spinning in circles. On one hand, part of him still wants her. He misses the family dynamic and wonders if, with time, the kids could slowly learn to welcome her again. Even when he's been with other women, he admits there's always been a feeling that something is missing. On the other hand, he's deeply conflicted. He can't help but wonder if she only came back because her plan B collapsed. Would she have ever returned if that other man hadn't hit rock bottom? Even if he were to let her back in, he doesn't see himself rushing into remarriage. At the very least, he'd demand a prenup and want her to stay at her parents' house while slowly reintegrating into his and the children's lives. But he also admits there's a part of him that resents her, that sees her as tainted by what she did. He knows that sounds harsh, but the betrayal cut deep. He thinks therapy, both couples and family, would be absolutely necessary if they were to even try this. He also can't stop thinking about the risks. What if she left again? The damage to him and, more importantly, to the kids could be irreversible. He's here looking for outside perspectives because he feels too clouded to see clearly. And, honestly, many people think he's crazy for even considering it. She already abandoned him once, and the odds are she'd do it again the moment things stopped being easy. The second story comes from a woman who is expecting her first baby with her fiancé, but her ex-husband is still clinging to the past and making life difficult. She explains that she and her ex married very young. They were each other's first serious partners, and eventually, they just grew apart. By 2016, the marriage was over. Within a year, she met her current partner, and they've been together ever since. The only reason her ex is still in her life at all is because of their dogs. Back when they separated, they had 2. He took one, she took the other. But not long after, he decided he couldn't handle the responsibility and handed his dog off to his parents without saying a word to her. She would have gladly taken the dog back, but instead, he just dumped the responsibility elsewhere. Later, he threw a tantrum, claiming it was unfair that he couldn't see the other dog anymore. The whole thing actually escalated enough that it had to be hashed out in divorce court, and now she's legally obligated to bring the dog to see him once a month, as though it's some kind of shared custody arrangement. She admits one of the reasons she divorced him in the first place was because of this immaturity. She always wanted children, but he never did, and truthfully, he was far too emotionally stunted to be a father anyway. Her current partner, on the other hand, also always wanted kids, but life took a tragic turn for him. He lost his first wife young and didn't date for nearly a decade afterward. By the time they met, he had been widowed for 15 years. He was finally ready to open up again, and together, they started building the life both of them had always dreamed of. After getting engaged last December, they started trying for a baby and got pregnant almost immediately. Their child is due this November, and they couldn't be more thrilled. But her ex? He hasn't taken the news well. Even though they've been divorced for years, and even though he never wanted children with her in the first place, he's been sulking, bitter, and disruptive over the fact that she's moving on and about to have a family with someone else. She's just trying to enjoy this next chapter of her life, but her ex's refusal to let go keeps dragging her back into the drama she thought she'd escape. I didn't bring this up with my ex because, honestly, I hardly ever use social media, and my partner and I had already agreed that we wouldn't post anything about the pregnancy until after the baby was born. On Saturday, I met him for our usual dog visitation, which was the first time he'd seen me in about a month. Since I'm tall, it took a while before I actually started to look pregnant, but now it's obvious. I'm 25 weeks along. The moment he saw me, he completely lost it. He went on this angry rant, accusing me of cheating on him and saying that my pregnancy was proof that I never really loved him. According to him, I supposedly jumped into bed with the first guy I met and got pregnant right away. I was just standing there thinking, wow, okay, I'm not doing this with you. So I told him I wasn't going to argue, reminded him I was only there so he could spend time with the dog, and left. Since that day, he's been harassing me through different phone numbers and fake online accounts, sending me threats and cruel messages. I keep blocking each one as they appear, but it's exhausting and stressful. Up until now, our relationship had been mostly civil, but this sudden spiral makes me wonder if I should just say, forget it, no more court-ordered dog visits, no more contact. Honestly, that feels like the only way to protect my peace. At this point, the best option might be to document everything he's doing, keep records, and involve the authorities if needed. That way, I could potentially gain full custody of the dog and not have to see him ever again. In another situation, things took a very different turn. A woman had just gotten engaged to her fiancé, who's 27, while she's 29. She had actually been the one to propose after finding out from friends that he'd been upset when the pandemic ruined his own proposal plans. They were enjoying their engagement and feeling incredibly happy until his ex, a 28-year-old woman, decided to stir up trouble. The ex reached out through social media and sent several intimate videos of herself with him, adding a nasty comment that even though the woman might be marrying him, she could never satisfy him the way she had. The fiancé admitted that when she and her partner first got together, she felt insecure about this ex because she was very attractive. But over time, those worries faded because her fiancé constantly reassured her and made her feel secure and loved. He had even explained before that his ex was abusive and forced him into things he wasn't comfortable with. Still, receiving those videos reopened old insecurities. Against her better judgment, she watched them, and it left her shaken. She had never seen her fiancé act so vocal and intense in bed. One video even showed his ex performing a sexual act on him in a public space, something she had never known he might be into. Feeling rattled, she searched his phone to see if he had kept any of these tapes. He hadn't. He deleted them right away, but she found messages between him and his close friend, Sarah. It turned out his ex had sent him the videos too, as some twisted way of reminding him how good things supposedly were between them. He told Sarah that he deleted them immediately and blocked the ex, but he was debating whether he should mention it to his fiancée. The chat then shifted, and Sarah teasingly pressed him to compare who was better in bed, his fiancé or his ex. He tried to dodge the question, but Sarah kept pushing until he snapped and went on a little rant. The core of what he said was this: if you looked at sex only in terms of the physical side, then yes, his ex had been better. She was more aligned with his physical type, took initiative, and was very assertive. He even admitted she gave one hell of a BJ. But then he explained that all of that came with abuse, manipulation, and eventually, her using sex as a weapon rather than an expression of love. In contrast, with his fiancée, the emotional intimacy made everything better, even if she wasn't quite as fiery or aggressive as his ex. With her, he felt safe, loved, and happy, and that made their sex life meaningful and deeply satisfying. Reading that conversation was bittersweet for her. On one hand, his words about emotional connection reassured her. On the other, his confession that his ex was better in a purely physical way cut deeply. She thought back to times he had encouraged her to be more assertive in bed, which she had tried, but she naturally tended to be more passive once things got going. Now, she worried she could never measure up, especially when she thought about things like performing sex acts in public, which wasn't her style at all. The doubts started creeping in. Was she just the safe choice, the person he settled with because she came after someone toxic? Logically, she knew she didn't need to be the absolute best in every category to be a good partner for him. He had shown her love, loyalty, and devotion in every way that mattered. Still, the sting remained, and she couldn't shake the fear that maybe she wasn't enough, that maybe she just got lucky being the one he moved on with. When I first stumbled into all of this, it felt like one of the happiest periods of my life had been stolen from me. The fact that my fiancé once thought our relationship was so good that it made up for me not being as sexually skilled as his ex cut deeper than I expected. It hurt, and instead of sitting with those feelings or talking to him openly, I let my insecurities run wild. That's how I ended up snooping through his phone and watching videos I should never have touched. At the time, I told myself it was about reassurance, but in reality, it was just me giving in to fear. And when I saw those clips, it only made the pit in my stomach bigger. I hated that I had done it, and worse, I hated how it made me feel about myself. After spending some time reflecting, especially after hearing advice from others, I realized that what I did wasn't fair. My fiancé has never hidden his phone from me, but the intent behind my actions, my choice to pry into something private out of insecurity, was wrong. That realization hit me hard. So, instead of pretending like nothing happened, I decided to come clean. The next day, I sat him down and confessed everything. I told him about the videos, that his ex had sent them to me, and that I'd snooped through his phone. He was understandably upset. But, to my surprise, his frustration wasn't really with me. He was more angry at his ex for trying to stir up drama and invade our lives again. He admitted he hadn't watched the videos because he never liked being recorded in the first place. Most of the time, he said he only agreed to it because she pressured him into it. His biggest worry was that seeing those videos would make me think less of him. Hearing that, I felt awful. I reassured him that none of it made me respect or love him any less. I wanted to give him some space to process, so that night I cooked his favorite dinner. Over the meal, we talked more calmly. He apologized for not warning me about the videos earlier, admitting he should have seen this coming after blocking her. He told me he appreciated me being honest about snooping, even if it hurt, and that he understood how I let my emotions carry me away. He reminded me that if I had just asked, he would have handed me his phone willingly. I asked if he wanted to take legal action against his ex for revenge porn, but he shook his head. He said he wanted nothing to do with her anymore, that he just wanted us to move forward and focus on our engagement. I told him I would support whatever he decided and that I'd delete the videos and block her right away. Finally, I brought up the texts I had seen, the ones where he compared me to her. He admitted he handled that badly. He said it was the first time in ages that he had even thought about comparing anyone, and he regretted not answering differently. He apologized again, but I told him he didn't need to sugarcoat anything. That was a private conversation with a friend, and it wasn't like he was cruel or disrespectful about me. I admitted that it was okay if his ex was better in some ways, that I didn't need to be the best at everything. But then he surprised me. He explained that he hadn't expressed himself properly in the text. What he really meant was this: if someone asked me who was the most skilled or adventurous partner, sure, I might say her. But that's not what matters. If someone asked me about the best sex I've ever had, my first thought would be the time we made love right after you asked me to marry you. Then I'd think of the night you told me you loved me. And third, the day we christened the kitchen after I moved in. She doesn't even come close to those moments. She couldn't even make the top 3. And we've got a lifetime to make sure she doesn't come close to the top 100. Hearing him say that, not as flattery but with such sincerity, filled me with a happiness I can't even describe. It made all my earlier fears seem small. I kissed him, teased him about testing whether we could make another top 3 memory that night, and things naturally led to us being intimate again. This time, I wasn't trying to be better than anyone. I just focused on us, on making sure we were both completely present with each other. Without forcing anything, I ended up taking the lead, and it turned into something special, something that felt like pure joy between us. I could tell from the way he looked at me afterward that he felt it too. Looking back, I'm grateful I didn't let my guilt or pride stop me from being honest. My mistakes came from insecurity, but instead of letting them fester into something worse, I faced them. And in doing that, we actually became closer. So, in the end, what started as a painful spiral into doubt turned into a reminder of what we really have: trust, forgiveness, and a love that only keeps growing stronger.